What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. So this is The Secrets of Playboy. We're in season 1, and this is episode 11, which this is actually a bonus episode, right? Because what ended up happening was it was exactly what I said, that once once they started making this documentary, and I think the stories got leaked, and some of what was happening with the documentary got leaked, then people started reaching out to the producers saying, hey, I have a story to tell too. I have a story to tell too. And so this episode was starring the Shannon twins, who, if you watched Girl Next Door, you followed Playboy, whatever, they were on the last, I guess, like 2 seasons of the Girl Next Door. We know Girl Next Door was a reality show that featured Hugh Heffner and his girlfriends. We did have a whole episode, I believe episode 2 was all dedicated to Holly Madison, who was Hugh Hefner's girlfriend, who ended up becoming his main girlfriend during the cycle of the show. Kendra and I believe Bridget is the other young lady of the original 3. They eventually left the show and cycled out. Holly stayed, and they brought the twins on. And then the twins were there for, I guess, 2 seasons, and they brought another young lady by the name of Crystal. And then once the show was canceled, Crystal actually ended up marrying Heffner, and again, he was in his 80s at this time. So this is their story. So let me just give you guys a little information. Again, keep in mind everything we've already covered, right? I'm not going to reiterate everything that we already know to be true about what was happening. I'm not going to reiterate everything that's already been said. I can't say it was true. I won't dare. Everything that has already been said is what I'm gonna. I didn't say it was true. I said we heard it. Okay. But this episode is called Behind the Girls Next Door. So we have the Shannon twins. The Shannon twins, Crystal and Cretia. Lord, I couldn't get the C out. Cretia. So they sort of had a tragic story to begin with. And remember, we talked about the fact that Hugh Hefner would almost target women who had these types of like tragic backgrounds, because of course it made them more susceptible to the mind control and to the manipulation, and put them in a situation where they felt like they couldn't leave, which really kind of ended up being the situation with these young ladies. So their mother abandoned them pretty much when they were born, and their father was abusive, and as a result they ended up living with their grandmother, being raised by their grandparents. When their grandfather died of cancer when they were 15 years old, it left the grandmother pretty much financially wiped out. They lived in Clearwater, Florida, and they said they had to move out of they lived on the beach. They had to move out of their home on the beach and move into a trailer park. And then they ended up actually dropping out of school to go get jobs to help pay the bills. They were 15 years old, so they never finished high school. They said when they started doing promo and everything, they worked for like Wing Daddy or something. It was like a Wingstop type restaurant, and they were doing the promo for the show and the commercials. I mean, for the store and commercials and stuff like that. They said it was a very similar to like a Hooters style restaurant where they dressed up and wore the cleavage with the boobs and the booty shorts and that kind of thing. So they did a photo shoot when they were 17 years old, and through the promo of doing the stuff for the restaurant, one of the photographers was like, "Hey, I know some people down to the Playboy," and they said they grew up watching, like, they watched the Girls Next Door. They were fans of the show, and so the guy was like, "Hey, we could take some, nude photos, and I can get them over to Playboy." Now they were only 17, but of course they were like, "Yes, Playboy, yes, we want to," So they took the pictures, and then when they were 18, Playboy wanted to do a test shoot with them, and immediately when they did the test shoot, Hugh saw the pictures and was like, "Yes, bring them here." So they flew out to California, and immediately they said they were mic'd before they even went into the mansion. They were mic'd up, and became a part of the show, because at this point they were filming for the show. So anything that sort of went on was a part of the show. Anyway, they said they signed the releases. No, they didn't read them. They didn't know anything about it. They were 18 years old, fresh off the farm, and were basically living their dream. So they were like, here, sign it. Yes, here you go. Now, they lived in the mansion. And so they lived there for a little under a year. It wasn't until their 19th birthday that they felt the pressure to actually have sex with Hugh Heffner, they said. They went out for their birthday. They got drunk, all of the above. And they said Kendra was like, hey, you guys smoke weed? And they were like, hell yeah, we smoke weed. And so they ended up going to Hugh Hefner's room, and Kendra left. Because Kendra didn't smoke weed, or at the time, I think they said she was either pregnant, or they suspected that she was pregnant. But neither here nor there, she left the room. And they were by themselves with Hugh. And they said that's when they got uncomfortable, because they were alone with him, and it was kind of like, oh, snap. He gave them a pill, heard that before, for them to relax, and basically they ended up having sex. They said he couldn't finish, because by this time he's in his 80s. They said he couldn't finish the job, but it still made them feel disgusted, because they said, we've never had any sort of a threesome with us together. Now, they said that they never sexually interacted with each other, but just being there with the same person was just disgusting to them. They said they never actually spent the night. They never slept in his room. They always waited for him to fall asleep, and they got up and left. They said that first night, as soon as he fell asleep, they got up, they went back to their rooms, and they showered so much that their skin was raw. They said that there were rules in the mansion that they had to have a curfew. They had to be home by 9 o'clock. They were not allowed to leave. They were not allowed to go visit their family. And if and when they were allowed, I shouldn't say they were never allowed, because that's not true. They were allowed, but they were put on a very tight leash. And seeing their family was used as something to dangle over them, and it was a punishment. They said that they were wild. They did their own thing. They broke the rules as much as they wanted to, because they were young. They were 18 years old, and they would go to the clubs, and they would go to the parties, and they would party with people outside of the Playboy machine, and they would get in trouble. And they said Hugh Heffner would literally lock them in their rooms and put security outside of their door, so they couldn't go out, so they couldn't go to the clubs or whatever. Like I said, they had a curfew. Security followed them everywhere they went, and would bring back a report to Hef with basically saying they went there, they went here, this is who they saw. And again, if you go back to the first episode, one of the first episodes, child, this thing was going on for so long, they talked about his security and how he would be debriefed every morning. So they would get a report. He would get a report on the twins every morning of what they did and where they went. They said that Hef did not like to wear protection, and that they did get an STD. They got chlamydia from him. And when they sort of complained about it, Marion, his secretary, whose name we've heard a million times as well, basically told them, well, that's what you do when you have sex. You got diseases. As much as they say this man was having sex with all the different people coming in and out, and he didn't like to wear protection, it is a wonder that he never caught, something more serious, right? But anyway, one of the questions asked was, well, why did y'all still do it? And they were like, well, at that point we were taking care of our grandmother. And because our grandmother did so much for us and took us in when, basically our parents couldn't or abandoned us, we loved her, and we also felt it was our responsibility. And so that's kind of what was, over their heads was, we wanted to be able to take care of our grandmother and pay her bills and that kind of thing. They said even down to what they ate was scrutinized, right? Because have skinny women. One of the twins actually got pregnant, and it was Hef's baby, because she said she wasn't with anybody else, and she was totally shocked and disgusted. She said she was so afraid that he would find out, because she absolutely did not want to have this child. She didn't want to have any parts of a baby by him. And so they talked about how elaborate they had to be in scheduling the abortion. They said that they pretended like they were going shopping, and they went shopping with Juicy J from 3 6 Mafia. So she said he was a really good friend of mine, and he knew and he helped us. So they went to the mall because they said they knew paparazzi would be following them. So they went into the mall with him. And then he had his car pick her up, like from another part of the mall, pick her up, take her to the clinic, and then bring her back. And then they bought like a couple of things just to say, hey, we went shopping. And she went home later. And the next day they actually had to start taping for Girls Next Door, like the promo shoots. And they talked about how basically her sister played her body double because, she said her stomach was still bloated and she was in a lot of pain and she was bleeding and, all the things that, happen after you have, a procedure. And they even showed it where, like, basically they ended up using her sister because it was like this whole bobblehead thing. So they basically just used the sister's body on her head, and she was able to kind of get through it. They said after they caught the STD, they didn't have sex with him anymore. They stopped until they said that they said they stopped, and then in order for them to go back and start sleeping with him again, they said they wanted to be the only ones and no more like orgies basically. And he agreed to it, and they were like, oh damn, because they didn't think he would ever agree to it. And so they went back and they said they slept with him a few more times, but after that they just really had to stop. The show was canceled in 2010. And they said because they said once they stopped sleeping with him, then they moved into the Playmate house, which this is the first I'm hearing about a Playmate house. I mean, but they said that once they moved to the Playmate house, they were cool. They got a taste of freedom, and they were like basically off to the races at that point. The show got canceled in 2010, and they left. Once the show got canceled, they left the mansion. They left the whole Playboy machine. They had their own salon for a couple of years, and they said they ended up selling it. They did talk about some of the things that they were able to do as a result. They said they've got a lot of great opportunities as a result of their affiliation with Playboy, commercials and endorsements. And, they were in a movie by Sofia Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's daughter. And they talked about how Hugh was how he was so jealous of the situation and how he went and met her, and they showed a clip because they put it in Girls Next Door, and he actually made them miss their own premiere because he wanted to go to the premiere, of course, and they told him they wanted to do it by themselves, and he was like, fine, but you still have to do movie night first. And remember this whole infamous movie night at the mansion on Friday nights, they would watch movies and yada yada yada. And so they did it, and then of course by the time they got to the theater, the premiere was over, the movie had already started. They missed a lot of the fanfare. So yeah, this is their story, and again, they said they've been in therapy, that they've dealt with a lot of, PTSD, so to speak, from it. But they said they felt better telling their story, they felt better getting it off their chest, and they were inspired to tell their story once they heard about the documentary and they started seeing, some episodes. They were inspired to tell their story. So next week is the final episode. So next week is a lot of the Playmates who were the whistleblowers, they're calling them, are kind of coming back together and sort of having like a roundtable discussion about what they did, why they decided to do it, what they wanted to accomplish from it. So next week is the final episode. And I'll see y'all there. Talk to y'all later. Peace.